Two village idiots with a love-hate relationship
See, you got fat.
So you still look like a 15-year-old girl, but not hot.
who can't stop arguing over Oklahoma sports.
You know what, man? Why am I still talking to you?
Come on, we were doing good there, man.
It's the Just Okay Sports Podcast.
Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. That's Just Oklahoma Sports. I'm here with my brother Jared. My name's Daryl. We're just two village idiots going to talk a bunch of Oklahoma sports, basically Oklahoma Sooner football, a little bit of basketball maybe, and a lot of Thunder basketball for sure because them boys are hot right now. Jared, how are you, my man?
I'm good. I'm stressed out beyond belief because of moving, but I'm good. I finally got a weird thing is I've been doing Zins. You know what those are?
No?
They're like little nicotine pouches.
Oh, gosh.
And yeah, so there's like threes and there's sixes. Like the six is more powerful one, but I haven't been able to buy them in like 2 weeks because they've been sold out everywhere. So I finally went today and they had some. I was like, hell yeah. So I got some today. So
Why are you doing this to yourself? Why? It's run
nicotine
from
is
this.
not bad for you. Nicotine is not bad for you.
My gosh.
It's not bad for you. It's just like caffeine's not bad for you. It's just all the crap that usually is paired with caffeine is bad for you. Like tobacco is bad for you, but nicotine itself is not. We're not going to get into. We're not a health podcast, okay? I mean, what are we doing?
Next episode guest interview will be medical professionals speaking on whether or not nicotine is good for the system.
Bro,
So
I swear to you. Anyways, which one's the smart brother here?
Well, that's fair.
Okay.
That's a fair point. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a learned doctor, okay?
I'm a learned doctor. Good grief. Oh man. Yeah, it was I woke up this morning here in Oklahoma and the actual temperature was 5. If there was a breeze, the wind chill was dropping it down to 2. If you lived in the panhandle of Oklahoma, you were a nice, warm, tropical -15 actual temperature this morning here.
That is
And
wild.
then our dad, who lives in Houston, is apparently being snowed under. I mean, it's like 2 inches of snow, but
It's funny.
they have no idea what's happening right now.
It's funny. He sent us the picture of his like front yard, and there's the palm tree covered in snow, and I'm like, that is such a weird sight. Just see palm trees covered in snow. So
I
my
know.
cat is being crazy.
And I literally texted back to Dad. I was like, Jesus did not come back. This is not the end of the world. We have not been attacked. That's called snow. It's when the water
Yeah.
gets really cold when it comes out of the sky.
I was like, Dad's actually gonna have to use the heated steering wheel in his truck that he's probably never used in his life. Like the heated seats are gonna get used.
The computer's like glitching out. Like, what's a heated steering wheel? I don't know.
He's gonna get in. It's gonna immediately gonna kick on the AC, and he's like, "No, that's all I want." And this week, you definitely don't want heat. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, I've seen pictures of like I even saw like Pensacola's covered in snow right now and
Yeah.
stuff. Like it's kind of funny. So like where I'm at, it's gotten cold. It's like in the 40s right now. I haven't looked in a while. So I say, okay, let me preface Florida cold.
Yeah.
I always say that people are like it's not cold. I'm like, okay, it's cold for Florida.
Hey,
Chill
40s
out.
is cold for me. 40s is
Okay,
in the
I can
cold
do
category
40s.
for me.
I can do 40s. Like I was like 45 degrees is like my like if I have to like walk to the, like you know how my old house was. Like if I had to walk to the mailbox or something,
Yeah.
it's like I could be in like shorts and a t-shirt in 45-degree weather
Yeah.
and be fine with that.
Yeah, you could.
Like you know what I mean? Like
I cannot.
I
You
would
can.
I wouldn't want to go out for hours like that, but you know what I mean? Like yeah, but right now it's 47 degrees, feels like 35.
Ooh.
And it's gonna be kind of cold. I mean, it's not gonna get to below freezing, but it's funny because like I had to go to the store earlier, and everybody's like, it's raining right now. Like it's been raining for like the last like 5 hours. And it's just kind of cold, but like everybody's driving like it's icy, and I'm like, guys, like I got stuck behind a car coming home that was doing like 20, and I'm like, bro, like we're like 15 at that point. It's like we're like 15, 20 degrees above freezing. Like chill out, dude. Like it's gonna be all right.
Yeah, see here, like today it was not bad, wasn't windy. The wind just kicked in here. It's 22 degrees here, feels like 7 is what it is
Yeah.
here right now. Like, oh, but that's hilarious. It's 40 degrees and they're like, oh, It's gonna
Oh,
freeze.
dude,
It's gonna
people like
freeze.
let me. So for those,
We gotta
I
keep the
think we talked
faucet.
about.
We gotta keep the faucets dripping. It's 40 degrees.
So I will say for people that don't know about the pod, I am moving to Pittsburgh in a couple weeks or whatever. Um, it is currently 5 degrees in Pittsburgh, and it feels
Oh.
like -3.
Nope.
And tomorrow, let's see, the high tomorrow is 15 degrees. Let me see, the highest in the next 10 days is 36 degrees. The
Nope.
high is 36 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Not great.
it's gonna,
Not great.
yeah,
Be
it's
over
gonna
soon
be,
though. It'll be over soon. I mean,
yeah, like
it's almost
spring and,
February when you really think about it. Like
yeah,
we're on the doorstep of February. It's
yeah,
wild.
yeah, it's
Just
wild.
wild.
Yeah,
So, well, hey, there's a lot. We have not potted literally in a month. We have not
yeah.
potted in a month. It's been bad. We apologize to all two of you that listen. Swayze, Nemo, you guys. Appreciate you. And so, but we got a lot to talk about. So, when the last we potted, Arbuckle had been hired. John Mateer was on board. The Navy game had not happened yet. Uh, what has been the off season of ins and outs and leaving, staying, going, awkward tweets by R. Mason Thomas that nobody knows what they mean for days on end. Kind of as you just think about all that, just very quickly, anything that really stands out to you, kind of thoughts from Navy game forward to where we are.
I mean, it was chaotic, right? Like we had a lot of portals. Um, some expected, some not so much. We've talked a little bit about some of the guys they brought in. Mixed feelings, I feel like, from Sooner Nation about some of that. Um, yeah, I know the Army St. Thomas thing was just really weird. I think he was just trying to like pull one over on people, but I was like, I don't like the whole Grease thing. I still don't get
Yeah,
it. Like I'm just a boomer. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they've made some good moves. The more I've gotten like further away from it all being like present, I think there's potential. I mean, I'm still like, I wish we would have got some bigger people, like, Singleton or, some like a big name
right.
receiver or whatever. But, um, I don't know. I feel like after coming out of last season, really turning around and looking at it now, I'm like, our defense was so insanely good. Our
Mm-hmm.
defense really was.
Yeah.
And if we just had a competent offense,
Oh,
it would have been fine. So it's like I can't look at what we brought in. I mean, obviously, like we've had some really terrible departures, like Nick Anderson and all those sorts of things. Um, but I mean, they didn't contribute this year, right? Like, so it's like I can't
yeah.
look at what we brought in and be like the roster that they actually put on the field is going to be worse than it was last year. And you seem to have a competent offensive coordinator who's going to be able to put them in a position to succeed, which we didn't do at all last year.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I feel okay about it. I mean, I'm really glad our Mason Thomas is coming back. I think if he can develop a little bit, I think he's like a guy that could go like in the top three
Oh yeah.
rounds.
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing that I think it'll be interesting and Teddy has talked about this on the OK Breakdown podcast a lot is just if you can get some games where you're late in the third, early in the fourth with a touchdown or 10-point lead, the stat line for R. Mason Thomas is going to be through the roof, right? Because teams are going to have to start throwing more. And instead, we were always playing behind, which basically meant they were running 90% of the time, right? Like you didn't have to worry about it. They were just chewing clock and trying to move along. And so I'm excited to see him in that kind of situation.
yeah, I mean, Mateer's definitely like a big addition. Um, I mean, I don't know. There's so many things there. Like it's going to be a completely different team this next year.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I will just say this. I think the number one shocker for me in this whole offseason is the Joe John Finley keep. Like
yeah,
I really believed that there was basically a hey, you got this much time to find a job. If you don't, we got to move on. And here we are. I mean, spring conditioning and workouts and measurements and times and all like they've already done all that stuff. And like, look, I'm in like multiple discords. I'm reading all the stuff. I see all and everybody still has this full-on belief that there's just going to be this magic moment where all of a sudden Joe John Finley's gone and they're bringing somebody. I'm like, Why? Like, why are we still clinging to this? Like, all the jobs that were open that we thought he might be connected to are filled. So he's not getting hired that way. Like,
Mhm.
he's not going. He is going to be a part of this staff, and I do not understand why. I think next on the list is DeMarco, but like you can say DeMarco's recruited. You can say
Yeah.
that. I mean, Tatum was the number one back in the country, right? Like, and technically you had Caden Durham in the boat, and then kind of he decided that track was something he really wanted to do. And look, when you are the two, like we talk about this all the time, Tatum. I think a big reason we got Tatum is the baseball program,
Yeah.
right? Like you can play baseball anywhere, but OU's
I
baseball
mean,
program's really good. LSU's track program is ridiculous. So I mean, DeMarco can recruit, develop, manage. I don't know.
the thing with, DeMarco is one of those things where at least he's put people in the field that have looked good. Now, we can go around and round about the rotation and how weird that's been and how he's handled that sort of thing for weeks, but you've seen guys that have emerged. You saw Howie Walker last year. You saw, or I guess year before or whatever. This year you saw plenty of guys show up. Barnes, like who was non-existent year before, showed up. And I would say was the best looking running back, and I thought he looked really, really good.
Yeah.
Xavier Robbins. I mean, like we go down the list, right?
Yeah.
So like I would say like he's got a resume when it says he can put people on the field, he can recruit. Joe John, like Starter showed up and didn't look like anything like he used to be.
Right.
Um, I can't even think of his name now. Bauer Sharp looked like athletic, but and again, I think I feel bad for Bauer Sharp and maybe even a little bit for Joe John that they didn't put the tight ends in positions to succeed.
Right. Right.
But because I think Bauer Sharp athletically is a good tight end. I think he's more of one of those flex guys. Like he's not a line up and block anybody that's more than maybe a linebacker or something
Right.
type guy where they were lining him up against defensive ends and everything. It's like that ain't gonna work. But yeah, I mean, outside of this, like there's nobody, I can't think of anybody to put on his resume where I've been like, he took that guy and made him into something.
You're right.
Um, and like Davin Mitchell is staying, but I don't know how much that has to do with Joe John. You would think it has to do something, I guess, but like
Probably more of a Michael Hawkins thing. I think also, I mean, I don't want to try to again. We're not journalists, so I always want to be careful with this stuff. But I do. I mean, we know people that we feel like have different connections. I also think mom and dad are very grateful for how OU handled him as a freshman. I think there was a lot of classroom stuff going on, meeting stuff going on, and I think they were really patient with him and invested in him to get him to grow up. And look, I don't know if you saw Davin Mitchell's tweet after the Navy game. Did you see that whole thing?
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, where
Yeah,
he was, and he was coming at fans being like, no, it ain't done anything to do with the coaches. Like it's on me why I didn't play,
right, right.
which
And
I give kudos to.
100%, and that shows maturity. I think mom and dad dig that, and they want that to continue in their son, right? So, and then the other big thing, man, was I was super scared listening to all the insiders when they were talking about, man, there's people tampering with RSJ. There's major tampering going on with Kipler. There's major tampering going on with Jaden Jackson. And I was like, dude, we're about to lose some people. It was a bad year. It was a rough year. The Zach Alley stuff and him leave. I was just like, dude, we're about to lose people. Dude, their playmakers they kept. RSJ back in the boat. RMT back in the boat. Like Jaden Jackson back in the boat. I mean, like Grayson Halton sticking around back in the boat. I mean, big time keeps. That I feel very good about the defense next year. Feel
Yeah,
very good about the defense next year. So
yeah.
speaking of defense, Jim Knowles, Jared, heard anything? Know anything? Thoughts?
I mean, I've heard the same thing everywhere. I mean, look, I have some friends that are Ohio State fans. I was talking to one of them today. I mean, he's like, I don't know that it makes sense. He's like, it's like at best a lateral move. And he's like, even then, he's like, to be honest, it's not even really a lateral move because OU's not in the position that OU didn't just win a national championship.
No.
and they don't have. I mean, even with the departures that they're going to have, Ohio State's been recruiting good for
For a minute.
years now.
Yeah.
Um, so he's like, it's kind of like a somewhat of a backward step a little bit. He's like, I know OU's a blue blood, but and he's like, so I don't know that it makes sense from that. And he's like, and if he's making 2.1 now, and OU offers 2.5, 2.7, or whatever it is, whatever they offer. Ohio State's one of the schools that probably has the resources to pay it if they want to keep him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. Now I know that, there's a lot of rumors about his fiance lives in Oklahoma. She's from Oklahoma. She doesn't want to leave Oklahoma. Maybe that plays a part in it. I don't know. I think getting Jim Knowles. Here's the thing that I would say. Not to say I want to get Jim Knowles. I also think out of all the things that will happen this offseason, if we get Jim Knowles, it may be the least impactful.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious about that. Because I agree with you on one side of it, and then the other side, I think if Jim Knowles can truly get BV to let go of the defense
Hmm.
and really allow him to think about the big picture of everything, it could be the most impactful.
Yeah. Well, but what I
Because
mean is,
because look, he trusted Allie, and I want to be very clear. He let Allie call the defense. There's been a lot of people, especially outside the OU circle. Well, he was. Now, was there friction? Yes. Because Zach Allie wanted to run more of the Iowa State 3-man front, 3 safety, kind of that 3-5-3, right? Like or 3-3-5, sorry, I should say. And BV doesn't really want to do that. He
yeah,
doesn't mind the 3-man front, but the 2 gap, not attacking with your defensive lineman, which is kind of like an Iowa State thing. You put 3 guys down and just basically try to swallow 5 offensive linemen with 3 guys, and then let everybody else make plays and just kind of play shell and keep everything in front of you. And Zach Alley has very much adopted some of those philosophies. And so there was a lot of friction in that. But he did call the defense. But BV definitely said, we're sticking with what we did at my Clemson days. We're not doing the 3 safeties and the 3 linemen and not being aggressive.
yeah. I mean, I think that I think there's truth to that. I just mean that I think the defense is going to be good next year,
Mm-hmm.
regardless if Knowles is here or not. I think, overarching, maybe it's pretty impactful, but like we were just kind of talking about, like the offense was the key component to why OU was not good this year.
Yeah.
Um, so I think those additions will have a bigger impact on what we see on the field, at least this season. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Jim Knowles thing is an interesting thing. Like, I hope that they get him. I have no idea. I would imagine that we'll know within the next day or two.
Yeah, I don't think it'll
Um,
take very long. His quote after or pre national championship game was interesting,
yeah,
right? Like they asked him, "Hey, there's a lot of rumors about Oklahoma. Would you like to speak on that?" He goes, "Oh, these things happen. Your job is to put your players in the best position. When you do that and do that well, these things come up. And
yeah,
I'm just focused on Notre Dame." I mean, dude, when I heard the quote, I was like, that is exactly what Zach Alley said after the Navy game. This is
yeah,
exactly the same. Now, you and I have talked about this. I think Jim Knowles could also be doing this, knowing that BV needs help and knowing that Ohio State's going to be more than willing to pay.
yeah,
It could be as simple as his agent going, "Okay, OU, what are you willing to do?" "Oh, 2.6? Okay, great. Hey, Ohio State, I love it here, but I mean, OU's offering 2.6. My lady lives there, yada yada." I mean, like one of my discords, the guy was like, "Look, it's easy. Pay him 3 million, and the lady gets a private plane that can fly her back and forth to Oklahoma and Columbus whenever she wants. Like, it's not that hard, you
yeah,
know." And so it could simply just him be playing like he realizes that he's on top of the world right now. The other side, there's a lot of rumors about Ryan Day in the NFL. And maybe he knows that Ryan Day is about to jump ship. And Another angle is they Ohio State this year has a chance to have, I believe, it's 16 players or 17 players drafted.
Yep.
And a big chunk of them are defensive players. And a big chunk of his defense were seniors. And so while they've recruited really well, they're going to be rebuilding that defense next year. And look, like we said, if I'm Jim Knowles and I want to keep my name as I'm a really good coordinator and I know I got to restart everything, Ryan Day may leave. Dude, BV's there. He may leave, may get fired at the end of the year, but I'll be able to get a job. I'll be in the state my lady lives in, and I know I got the tools. I know I got the Jimmies and Joes to have a really good defense.
I mean, and when you think about it, that kind of just put a light bulb on for me. When you think about it, the one thing I would give what they've done with the defense this last year or two, they have a very good mix of seniors and young players.
Yes.
Like, you don't think, like, not to say, like, it's like even this year, like Danny leaving, where it's like nobody's really worried about Danny leaving. And I would say it's unimpactful, but like
yeah.
Kip is fine. Kobe's played well. I mean, like, you've got guys in that linebacker room that have already played and shown that they're young and willing to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And same with the defensive line. Like, yeah, you had some guys that are headed out from there, but it's like our Mason Thomas is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jaden Jackson and David Stone. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, you have that mix. So they've done a good job of mixing that where you don't hit that thing where it's like, okay, we're starting 9 seniors on defense, and next year we're gonna have to retool everybody and break a bunch of new guys in.
Yeah.
I
think the only spot you're a little bit maybe concerned about that is linebacker, because I do think next year Kip will go to the NFL. I think.
Yeah. If he has a year like he did this year and he improves,
Yeah.
even just takes a little step forward, I think he's gone.
Yeah. Kobe, we'll see. I think he probably needs to stay through his senior year to get drafted, so he might stick around. But you're going to be thin at backer, but that's it. Everything else, like you said, it's pretty spaced out and it's pretty deep. So it'll be interesting. But we should know something soon. Again, all of you guys that do take time to listen, you're in the same discords with us. We've had all these discussions. I'll believe it when I see it, but I will say this. When this first got rumored, I thought it was complete BS. Now that we're this far into it and this much has been out there, this is real. And the fact that he didn't deny it shows that it's real. There's definitely smoke there. We'll just see if there's actually a fire. So now I want to talk about something.
Okay.
I sent you a text on December the 12th.
Yep.
Do you remember this text?
Yes.
You tell the people, Jared. What did I text you? By the way, Dark Daryl. The one that everyone who listens to the pod hates because I'm so negative, I'm so pessimistic, and I hate everybody, and yada, yada, yada. What did I say?
The floor for the record next year, the floor is 9-3.
I said the floor is 9-3. Now here we are a month later. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's still a crazy statement to say the floor is.
Okay, let's break it down. Let's get to it, as Troy likes to say.
Okay.
Let's look at the schedule, shall we?
Okay.
Let's look at the schedule for 2025. We start with one heck of a barn burner, week 1, right? Illinois State. Win or loss, Jared?
Win.
Now, game number 2 is a problem. Game number 2 is Michigan.
It is Michigan too, isn't it?
No, it is at home. It is in Norman.
Okay.
Norman, Oklahoma. Okay? Now, I'm going to do a part 2 of this 9 wins is the floor. But part 1, here's all I've done. Who is getting drafted from each team?
Okay.
How many prospects are they losing to the draft? Right? Michigan is losing, and these are all top 200 ranked draft prospects. That's where I went. Okay? I went the top 200. So Michigan actually has other guys eligible for the draft, but they did not land in the top 200. You tracking with me? And this is in order of what NFL draft sites say are their best players. Mason Graham, defensive tackle. Will Johnson, cornerback. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle. Josiah Stewart, defensive end. Colston Loveland, tight end. Khalil Mullins, running back, Rod Moore, safety, and Jashawn Barham, linebacker.
Okay.
So that is 8 players they will lose to the draft. And 6 off their defense, which I think it would be clear to say that Michigan was a little bit like OU this year, where their defense was pretty salty and their offense was pretty trash.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, their offense was better than ours, but yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about the Michigan game, win or loss?
I think that's going to be a very close one. Like, I think that you're underselling. I mean, Michigan still recruited really well.
Okay.
Um,
They
I
also are not
honestly,
under Harbaugh's leadership anymore, which was obvious this year.
sure, but I also think that they showed that they have the talent. I mean, they beat Ohio State, and you can say, "Oh, it's a rivalry," but it's like, dude, Ohio State is an NFL roster basically, and they beat them.
But it's a rivalry
Um,
game.
okay, right, but it's still like people that were trying to sell that Michigan was just going to be a dumpster fire this year. It's like that kind of proved that it's not to me. Like, I'm not saying that they did great this year. Like, it was definitely a down year for Michigan compared to, especially, winning the national championship the year before. But at the same time, it's like it's still a indication that they have that that's like they still have that talent pool. Like, they still have the talent to be able to do that.
Okay, they were 8-5. Okay, they were 8-5 on the season
Hmm.
with a win over Ohio State. Fair enough.
Yep.
We have a win over Alabama,
Yep.
and I would say that potentially one of the most competitive games that. Well, that's probably too far. We played extremely competitive with a Tennessee team that made it to the playoff as well.
Sure. I mean, look, I'm just saying I don't. I think Michigan's a team that's still going to be a dogfight.
I agree with you. I
Because
agree with you.
while we think the offense is going to be better, that's the second game for this offense. Like, how is
Correct.
it going to work? How is it going to be gelled by then? Those sorts of things. I know they have the entire spring and fall camps to get through that, but it's like still by the second game of the season, that's that early part of that season where a lot of times it's a toss up on how you're going to be.
Yeah. So to
But
that
I mean,
point,
all on Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois or Indiana, whoever it was.
yeah, and then making it to the final. So a
Yeah.
couple things I would say. One, I understand what you're saying. That's where the material get out of the portal is so big because your quarterback knows what he's doing. And
Hmm.
look, everybody else, as long as you can know what your job is at your stuff, we've got the guy that knows where everybody's supposed to be and he knows what to do,
Hmm.
right? Like offenses start to break down when you got a quarterback that's either incapable, right, or doesn't know what's going on, which we saw last year. Both of our quarterbacks had no clue what was going on, what to see, where to go, what to do with the ball. We have that, right? So that's going to be fine. Their defense is losing 6 starters. They're rebuilding, retooling, and that was their strength. So I feel like that's a good matchup. Now, I will say this. I actually have Michigan as a loss in my 9
Okay.
and 3 floor, right?
Okay.
I actually have them as a loss. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are 1-1 to kick things off. Okay.
Okay.
Temple win,
Temple's a
right?
win. Yep.
Right. So now you're 2-1. Auburn, Jackson Arnold coming back to town to Norman. You beat Auburn last year at Auburn. They're coming to your place this year. I think Auburn was a dumpster fire last year, personally, but they brought some people in. Some things have changed. They are, by the way, on their loss scale. Auburn is losing one player, and
Yeah. So
it's their quarterback.
I hate to say it, but I think that's a loss.
You think Jackson Arnold's coming back to be the savior?
I think Auburn had a lot of good quality additions to their roster. I think Jackson Arnold, like I said, I think if he gets QB coaching and he gets put in a system that will put him in a place to succeed. I've been a Jackson Arnold fan, and I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football.
I think he's really good. The problem is that he's had a coach be able to watch him for 2 years and knows exactly what he can and can't do. And he coaches the defense.
But will he still not be able to do those things when he's got good coaching and he's got an offensive scheme that
I still
isn't
think,
terrible?
even with or without coaching, you know what things guys see and what things they don't. You know what
Okay.
things they're good at, what things they're not, right? And
Mhm.
so you know what things they're going to try to go to and do. And look, as much as I like Jackson, and I'm with you, I think he has every tool in the world. I think BV can put that guy in a blender just
We'll
from a
see.
straight schematic. And then if you get Jim Knowles on board as well, I think it's going to even be more so, right? I think that's a win. So
Okay.
I've got us now at 3-1, I believe is the count now, right?
Okay.
So we're at 3-1. Kent State in Norman.
It's a win.
Ready to pull that trigger? Okay, so we're 5-1. Going to Texas. Cotton Bowl. Rivalry game. Anything can happen. Do you know how many guys Texas has ranked in the top 13 in this draft?
No idea.
How about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and their 14th was a starter last year, but he's in the 240 range. But I put him in because he was their starting linebacker, Trey Moore.
Okay.
14 players are coming off that roster and going to the draft alone. And then you've
Okay.
got guys like Jonte Cook, who was supposed to be their all world receiver, who's transferred out. Which, by the way, of those 14, starting left tackle, gone. Starting right tackle, gone. Starting center, gone. Starting guard, gone. Starting guard, gone. The entire O line's gone to the draft. All five. And Quinn Ewers, which
Yeah, but yeah, whatever. I'm gonna be honest. Sooner Nation's probably be mad at me for this. People listen to pod or whatever. I think that's a loss.
see, I'm all in on the win here. I'm all in on the win. If your defense is what it's supposed to be, and they are retooling with a completely new, just like we were this year. And I don't care how talented Arch Manning is, which you and I both agree. He's more talented and a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers.
Oh, yeah, he was
Okay.
as a freshman.
But he hasn't been out there. And again, if you're giving me a first time starter versus BV and potentially BV and Jim Knowles, I'm taking BV and Jim Knowles every time. If I'm in Vegas putting money down against a BV defense versus a first time starter who's never been out there and never played in that game, I'm taking BV every time.
Let me clarify something. I think OU loses that game, but I also think that it's a competitive game. I think it's like 38-35 or something. You know, what I mean, like
I look, no knock on you just can't lose that much and be great like you were the year before.
Alabama did it for however many years.
Yeah, and that's been done for a long time now. The closest we've seen to it is Georgia over like a 2 or 3 year run. Like this year, they were supposed to be great.
And I'm going to
And
reiterate, I think Georgia's going to be terrible.
okay, so
Well, I shouldn't
I
say
think
terrible.
that's
I think they're going to be like an 8-win team this next year.
so that is 6-1 for me.
Okay.
All right, we're at 6-1 now. This is where it gets tricky.
Clarify. I'm at 4-3.
Yeah. Okay. South Carolina at South Carolina.
I think
Now,
that's a
this
win.
one's a doozy. This one's a doozy.
Yeah, I would say I say that's a win, even though I love Beamer and I think he's really rebuilding that program. I think that's a win.
Okay. Number one, it's on the road at South Carolina. Problem. Number two, the only losses they have on their team is Nick Amanawari. I think it's a starting safety. They lose their starting defensive tackle. Kyle Kennard was a huge player for them last year. Mister got like 4 sacks in our game. Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders, and O'Donnell Fortune, which is a cornerback for them. But Dylan Stewart is still on that roster. And they have a returning quarterback that kind of cut his teeth, if you will, last year,
Did
right?
he not transfer?
I don't believe he officially transferred.
I think he did.
I know there was lots of rumors that he would.
Oh, he did. Okay, he did. He was going to enter the portal and didn't, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe is what I remember.
yeah,
Okay.
and he is back. That road environment will be insane. I'm telling you, I believe this with all my heart, and I've been telling this forever. I believe that South Carolina is the most underrated home field advantage, maybe in college football. People never talk about it because Carolina's always kind of mid tier, mid up in the SEC, so they're not in the discussion that much. This is a loss. I believe that
Okay.
this is a loss. And so that puts us now at 7-2. Is that what I'm at, right?
Yep.
Okay. 7-2. You are at you have this as a win. So now you're at 5-3. Oh wait, so I have to be 6-2. Sorry, 6-2, not 7 and
Yep.
2, 6-2. All right. Next game on the schedule. Ole Miss in
Okay.
Norman. Ole Miss in Norman. Here's what's going to the draft off the Ole Miss roster. Ole Miss is putting in. Sorry, I put him in these all. Princely Umani Yellen. I can't ever say his last name right, right? All world defensive end. Walter Nolan, their defensive tackle. Trey Harris, their wide receiver. Trey Armis, their cornerback. Jared Ivey, their defensive end. Chris Paul Jr., their linebacker, who was a stud in the game that we played them. Jackson Dart, gone. Antoine Wells Jr., their wide receiver, gone. And JJ Pegus, I don't know. Defensive tackle, gone.
Okay.
Again, you're breaking in a new quarterback. You're losing a huge dose of your defense, and your all world wide receiver is also going out. Last year at Ole Miss, this depleted OU squad made this a game with Jackson Dart on the field. It's a win. In Norman, it's a win.
But they had a lot come in too. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're gonna be as good, but I guess my whole thing, like before we keep going down this road, the offense I think is gonna be better, but it's still a question mark. How good is it gonna be? Um, and I think the defense is gonna be really good, but it's gonna be reliant upon how good the offense is.
Okay. So the offense was essentially 128th last year.
Yeah.
So if we have a 60 offense, how many games do you win last year?
I mean, a lot, but
So that's the thing. We were, even at the end of the year, last year, OU has one of the most difficult schedules in all of college football. And you're telling me that if we can have a offense in the 60s, that we win a lot of games this year. I'm just saying, like, I don't think
well,
that
look,
it's crazy to say that's a win.
here's my argument because I think saying the floor is my problem. I think you going 9-3 is a realistic expectation. Like if you're telling me like all the games we picked so far, I've not been confident in saying a win or a loss even. I think there's a lot of unknowns. I do think the SEC is going to be down next year compared to what it was this year, right? But it's still the SEC.
Sure.
Like,
But the benefit is this. This year's this year's schedule was insane on the
yeah,
difficulty scale, right? Not to mention, this is another thing we haven't talked about. Not a single team we play has a bye the week before us, which last year was not the case.
okay.
Texas had a bye the week before us. Tennessee had a bye the week, but Alabama had a bye the week before us. Auburn had a bye the week before. I mean, all these teams, and we talked about that was going to be a bit. There's none this coming year. None. And Alabama, Texas. Who else do we say? Auburn. And that's it. And okay, Auburn, Texas, Alabama are all losing their quarterbacks and breaking in new quarterbacks. And then LSU and Texas are breaking in entire new offensive lines. Both schools are.
Okay.
If you can't pull 9 wins as your floor from that schedule, you have a problem. You have a major problem if you cannot pull. Like, I understand that we can't say definitively OU guaranteed will win 9 games. But the floor for this team with those circumstances in front of them, the floor needs to be 9 games. Period. And it is going to be, I believe. I understand that we're we're trying to produce a futuristic idea of what's going to happen. But when you're telling me that you get to play 2 teams that are rebuilding the entire offensive line, you're playing a team that's rebuilding the entire defense, and you're playing 3 teams, 4 teams that are replacing their quarterbacks, and you're telling me you can't feel confident that the floor is 9 wins. We're not talking about the non-conference joke games that you got in there. These are all those stats are strictly your conference, your 8 conference games. You got to be able to win.
Okay, here's what I'm saying. I think because we're gonna keep going through this, I would say the floor to me is 7-5. That's like everything goes terrible.
If this team is healthy,
Okay.
you still think the floor is 7-5 if this team is healthy.
Yes.
Okay, that's crazy to me.
Okay, look.
This team this year. Let me ask this question: if this team this year is healthy, just healthy, with the terrible coaching it had, how many games does this team win?
But that's a wholly different question for one.
No, but it's a starting point. This year,
hang on.
2024,
Hang
a
on.
healthy team.
But you're taking like, okay. My thing is, I think the offense is going to be better. The problem with OU's offense this year is they went 3 and out how many times? Like we literally would gain 2 yards.
Yeah, I know.
Punt.
That's part of the reason why I'm on the 9-3 train.
This year, I'm more worried about, as much as I like Mateer and all that, is he going to is he going to be a turnover machine? Like, we don't know. Like, I know he's got good stats, but we talked about it. There was games also when he was at Washington State where he just kind of disappeared. And there's too many things. There's too many variables.
Was he ever a turnover machine, even when he disappeared?
He had turnovers. I don't think he had a ton. But what my point isn't.
No.
My point is.
I can just tell you. No.
Hang on.
No.
My point isn't that he's going to go throw 30 interceptions or something. My point is that even if we could drive the ball down the field, if we can't score, it doesn't matter. And we don't know that. To go from the 128th ranked offense in the nation to even 60 is a pretty crazy leap.
Yeah. That's how bad it was. And honestly, Jared, listen to what you just said. We constantly went 3 and out. This team doesn't even have to score points. They just need to be on the field and have competent drives. This year, if you could not go 3 and out every other drive and just competently get down the field to the 30-yard line and either choose to go for it or even punt the stinking ball into the corner, you win 2 more games this year.
Okay, and like, what my point is that I think the offense is going to be better. I think the defense is going to be. The defense is actually where I'm like, I think they're going to be close to as good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like comparing last season to next season is just a fool's errand, in my opinion. My point is that there's way too many variables. There's way too many things that can happen. And we don't know what to expect from this offense. We don't know. Yes, we think Mateer was good, but he also played against lower competition. He did not play anybody in his career that is close to an SEC level, week in and week out, especially.
Okay. Did he have SEC talent around him?
No, but he had talent, but he had more talent than the teams he was playing this year, especially.
Okay. The same was true with Cam Ward. Did he flop when he went to the ACC?
Yeah, but you're going to call the ACC the SEC
No, I'm
now?
not. But, like, was he not one of the most electric players in college football at a higher level of competition? Yes or no?
Yes, but
okay.
Like,
do you need Mateer to be what he was last year, which was leading the nation in touchdowns?
No, but that's not the point. But again, you have to look at the things in the sense of it's a totally different thing that Mateer's going to go up against. We don't even know. Like we were just what I was talking about earlier. While I think the offense is going to be better. Who in the receiver room are you going to be like that guy is it?
Deion Burks.
Okay, outside Deion Burks.
What? Honestly, Jacob Jordan. I know nobody
Okay,
wants to
but
hear
did he
that.
play? Did he what quarter did he come in when we played Navy or whoever? Like they mismanaged how they used him. I hope that gets better, but like he also didn't play all the time, a lot of time. Like
The whole back half of the season went healthy. He played and got open and caught the ball.
yeah,
Yes or
but
no?
what game was that? What was the last game of the season for us? Was that what game was that? It was Missouri, was it? Of the
No.
regular season? Either
No.
way, it's like I remember us talking about it where they didn't put him in until like the third, like halfway through the third quarter, and he was healthy. They just didn't play him. I mean, my point is that if you have one playmaker at wide receiver, that's not hard to cover, right? Like if you look at Ohio State, we'll just use Ohio State. They just won the national championship.
Yes.
They had like you can't just say, "Well, I'm going to double cover that guy," because then you're going to leave the guy on the other side of the field that's just as good or close to as
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I get it.
So
I get it.
my point is there's nobody in the receiver room that I'm looking at is going to be like there. I can't even look at anybody and say they're going to be the second guy.
Okay. Do you also agree that the offensive coaching was freaking stupid and horrendous?
Yes.
Can you agree that at least Arbuckle, regardless of what the SEC offers or not, that he can get people open?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so we're done. Like, it's coming way up. When you are running bootlegs, when you're faking a run play that you have not run the entire season, Joe John Finley, that was the second go round of offense. Guess what? It's horrendous offense. It's horrendous offense. When you still take over with a second
Okay.
offensive
Okay.
coordinator,
Here's what I'm saying.
putting Bauer Sharp to block defensive ends when it's clear he can't, is horrendous offense.
I keep saying the offense is going to be better because we've already talked about how, regardless of that, I would say this year. Okay, let me put it this way: the past season, I guess now season's over. This past season, I would say that if I took that roster and gave it to Arbuckle, he'd be better off than what I believe. I would put more money on that roster than I would this year's roster at this point in time.
Sure. Don't disagree with you there.
And so my point is that they didn't put him in a position to succeed. I think he'll be better at that. But at what level will they be able to succeed? Because what my point is that when it does come to it, when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, we haven't even talked about the offensive line. Right? Like we think Fasusi is going to be really good, but he's a true freshman.
I'm excited about the offensive line.
Why?
Because Logan Howland got better and better and better because they had to play him. They finally had to put him out there and let him get his growing pains, and he got better every week that he was out there. Ozida got better every week he was out there. Everett is not great, but he is very serviceable right there. I believe that the tackle guy that they brought in that guy that plays right tackle, I think they're going to play him at guard. So I think you're going to upgrade over Fabechi because you're bringing a tackle to play guard who can actually pull and move around. And then at right tackle, it's going to literally be a war between Sexton, Taylor, Fasusi, and Foje. You're telling me that's not an upgrade from Spencer Brown at right tackle?
But hang on. What are you saying right now? What word have you been using throughout all of that? I think. Like we don't know. Offensive line, we talk about
Jared, yes, we don't know. We thought Georgia was going to win the national championship. They didn't win it. I understand that. I get it. We don't, but you're not telling me that Logan Howland is better than what we started with at left tackle. Yes or no last year?
probably, yeah.
Okay, is Ozida better than what we started with last year? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, we're not thinking. So is Everett coming back healthy better than Joshua Bates was playing center for us last year?
That one I don't know.
I agree. It is 100% better than Josh Bates. So that I'm not thinking, those are facts.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
are and Spencer Brown, I don't care who. If you would like to come out of retirement and use your eligibility to play right tackle, you will be. I'm not thinking. Let me just be clear. I'm not thinking you are better than Spencer Brown at right tackle. That's a fact. We can put you right over there. Now, at right guard, I'm not sure. Fabechi was fine. He wasn't great. That's a fact. But I do think we'll be better there. And it's a fact that Spencer Brown and you would be better than some combination of Taylor, Sexton, Foje, or Fasusi. It's a fact will be better. I'm just not sure which of the four
Okay.
is going to be better.
Let me. I
How's
want to
that for
clarify.
you?
Hang
Is
on.
that
Hang on.
is that
Hang on.
better?
Okay. Hang on. I want to clarify something for our audience. My brother and I love each other. This is just us talking at Thanksgiving dinner. Look, all I'm saying is 9-3 is a steep hill, especially in the SEC. So do I think that if you told me if you had said I think you could go 9-3, I'd be like, okay, cool. I don't disagree with you there. But to say it's the floor is just wild to me.
Okay, but here's the thing. Your argument is not taking into account why I'm there. You
Okay,
just got
no,
done
no, no, no.
saying
I know,
no, no,
but
no.
hang on.
You just got done saying you can't say all these things because you're saying I think, I think, I think. We
Okay,
just
did you
went
think? Did
down.
you think? Did you think South Carolina would be a bubble playoff team?
Not a bubble playoff team. I thought they were going to be much better than people thought, and I said it
Okay,
last year on the pod.
okay, but did you think that they were going to be nearly as good as they were? Did you think they'd come in and put 28 points on us or whatever in a
I
quarter?
well, yeah, because I didn't think we were going to have the worst offensive coaching staff in the history of college football. No, I
Hey,
didn't think that was going to happen. That's true. But we also have a little bit better sample size here, and we have a quarterback that we actually know
what
because
I
so
okay, Alabama. We'll take a positive. Did you think going into the Alabama game that we were going to win by what was it 21 points?
heck no.
Okay. That's my point. All I'm saying is 9-3 is a crazy statement to say as the floor because the SEC competition is so high, even in a year where there's guys going into the drafts and everything, that happens every year in the SEC.
And they weren't very good this year.
But my point is that you still went 6-6 in the regular season.
Yeah.
Like there's too many unknowns in college football. And I
And
agree with you.
again,
I think we would have
so
been better
again,
if I think
if we were
OU's gonna be
just healthy with the terrible coaching, if we're just healthy, what's that record? In your opinion, as a guess, what do you think it is?
just being healthy, even with
Yeah.
terrible coaching,
Yeah,
maybe 8 wins.
exactly. And that matters because the teams that are on our schedule are losing a lot.
But you're also not taking into account like we just talked about Ole Miss. Like Ole Miss has added a ton of people into their roster from the transfer portal. The transfer portal changes a lot of that.
Yes, but they didn't do what they did last year.
No, they
Last
didn't. They
year,
didn't make as much of a
last year we
splash.
looked at the portal and went, "Oh my lord, they're going for it." We're
Yeah.
not saying that this year. You know why? Because they don't have the quarterback for sure. Jackson Dart's gone. That is the biggest question mark for every team is when you have a quarterback that has not stepped out there and produced. Look,
Okay.
John
Let's
Mateer is not
let's
the second coming of Joe Montana. Okay, let's be clear. He's not the second coming of Baker Mayfield. But he knows what to do with the football. And he knows how to lead, and he knows the offense, and he knows how to get the ball down the field.
okay. Look, let's go through your list because I want to get through this because we're gonna stay here for 2 hours if we don't. My I still disagree, but it's fine. It's just
Tennessee is your third loss, by the way.
it's at Tennessee, isn't it?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
at Tennessee. They still have their quarterback. That's the biggest reason. This was his first year to play. He's experienced it all now. He's seen it. He's felt it. He's gone through it. Their offensive line is back. The only thing they lose is they lose their Brew McCoy and what's their other really good
Dylan Sampson,
Dante
no,
Thornton. Dylan
Dante
Sampson, their
Thornton.
running back is gone, which I'm sorry, running backs are kind of, whatever. And James Pierce at defensive end is a big time player for them, but they don't lose much and they have their quarterback and you're playing them on the road. That's your third loss for me right there. And I know this sounds crazy because we go to Tuscaloosa, but when we look at the transfer portal losses that they have and the draft losses, which again, let's look at their draft. Listen very carefully. Yet again, starting guard, draft. Starting quarterback, draft. Starting defensive end, draft. Linebacker, draft. Safety draft, guard. They lose 3 offensive linemen, and they lose their quarterback. You're starting all over again at quarter, and quarterback is the biggest one. It's the biggest position that changes everything. And first-year starters have their ups and downs. I think you get a win there. We should have beat Missouri last year with Luther Burden, with Theo Weiss, with Brady Cook, their starting quarterback. We should have beaten them with, who else did they have? Sorry, that they've got going the draft. Brady Cook, Weiss, their starting tackle, and Luther Burden. Luther Burden alone being off that roster changes everything about that team. And look, Brady Cook was He was And he's gone. And you play them in Norman this time, not Missouri. That should be a win.
I mean, look, I think that where I'm at, I still think 9-3. I'm sorry, 9-3 to me is still, to say it's the floor is still crazy to me. I think my floor is 7-5, and that's like 7-5 is as bad as I can see this team doing. I mean, I also would say that I think there's a chance that they come out at the end of the season with 1 loss and they're in the conference championship. Like, depending on how things go. If the defense,
yeah,
I mean, that's really relying on the defense even more than the offense. I mean, obviously, the offense has got to play better than it did, but we expect that. But I think, like, if you have guys to give you the sunshine, if guys like Jaden Jackson progress, he was just a true freshman for Pete's sake. David Stone, if he starts getting in the mix, R. Mason Thomas, Kip Lewis, like, there's a number of guys, like I said, Peyton Bowen, Eli Bowen. Like, if those guys they don't even have to get substantially better. If they're just a little bit better, then I think that there's a chance you could make a lot of noise in the SEC.
Yeah. 100%.
Just relying on having a competent offensive coordinator.
Right. And that's the thing. From the defensive side, how in the world you could even say if Jaden Jackson progresses, like, that's the most, like, hedging your bet statement of all time. He's going to progress. He progressed this year.
Yeah.
Because he's never been out there before. David Stone is going to progress through the year because he didn't play that much until the end of the season, and he did it with a broken hand.
Yeah, and I will say this, and I think we were texting about this. Maybe it was during the Navy game. I don't know. There was a game that he was in, and I was like, you can tell this year for David Stone, there was times where he was just a true freshman because he was making those mistakes and he wasn't, fundamentals were off. But I was like, there was plays where he lined that up, and I'm like, bro, there was one where he had a double team, and it looked they could have had the whole offensive line trying to block him.
Yeah.
I mean, so, like, he's got the tools. He just needs to make it consistent. And if he does that,
think about the jump that Grayson Halton took this year and what he should take next year.
Yeah.
Like, those three, those 3 guys alone on your interior.
And like, you've got to mention, like, and that's the thing is, like, that's what I'm saying on the defensive side. Like, even Ethan Downs, I know you've never been like an Ethan Downs like sunshine pumper, but I'd say this year he got better this year, and I think he played extremely solid this year.
I think again, I've never been a lover of him just because he's not a great pass rusher, but, like, when you talk about just down in, down out, doing your job and holding your point of attack, 100% every time. Like, never doubt that Ethan Downs is going to do that, ever.
Yeah,
like, he
Ethan
just
Downs,
does the right thing every play.
I would say
he is the Drake Stoops of defense. That's what he is. He's the Drake Stoops of defense.
I would say, well, it's hard to say. He's probably the second overall in his overall performance when he was on the field. I'd say he's the second best defensive end for OU this year.
And first would be
like R. Mason or probably R. Mason Thomas, because he's lined up as DE.
See, I think overall this year I'd give the edge to Ethan. Just because R. Mason, again, when he was in pass rush situations, was great. Now, at the end of the year, I will say the same thing. R. Mason did this through the year. Early in the year on run plays, getting pinned in, not holding edge, and he just ascended. If he does that again, he's going to be a first-round pick. He does that again and gets to just get off the ball and go, he's going to be a first-round pick. And look, I know the wide receiver room is still a massive question mark. I get that. I do. But I believe in Deion Burks, right? I do believe in Jacob Jordan. I think those guys can really, really play at that position. Um, you got enough backs in that backfield that if you can just keep them from fumbling, you've got something to cook with there. I think your offensive line, honestly, I think the greatest thing that happened for OU this year were all the injuries to the offensive line. Without those injuries, Logan Hallen does not play this year. And I don't even know if Heath Ozida plays as much as he did without some injuries. And
Yeah.
that has catapulted you now into the season to be ready. Now, we'll see what happens with Foje and Fasusi. I think they're huge question mark. But look, Jacob Sexton at right tackle or Jake Taylor at right tackle is a massive improvement. That's four pieces that are unbelievably improved on your offensive line from last year. Right from the start, you are better. EPL, we haven't even talked about EPL. EPL is going to be fighting for the right guard position, right? So you are instantly better on the offensive line. There's no question about that. You are better there. Like, no matter what, even if Logan Hallen goes down, Jacob Sexton has played left tackle. Like, you're okay. He's not a great left tackle, but he's okay. So, and I just don't have any question about Mateer. I don't think Mateer's going to throw for some 6,000 yard season like a Baker Mayfield. But he's going to know what to do with the football, and he's not a turnover machine.
I agree with you, and I think that's the sunshine in me is like I said, we talked about this at nauseum at this point. They never put any position in a position to succeed at all.
No, no.
Like there was no scheming. I mean, it literally, I like high school teams ran more competent offenses than we did. Um, you were having Bauer Sharp block defensive
Defensive
ends.
ends.
You were having receivers that were, I don't even know what your route tree was supposed
You
to
took
be.
Zion Reagans and Jacob Jordan as lead blockers for tight end screens for Bauer Sharp. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And like endlessly ran the tight end screen with guys at that size being the lead blockers. It's terrible play calling. It's terrible play calling. And Gabe talks about it all the time. They would build these play action plays, whether it was a boot or a play action with a run that they never ran.
Yeah.
Like, who are you fooling? As a
Yeah.
linebacker, when you're sitting there going, wait, they're showing outside zone. They haven't run one outside zone play all year. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm not chasing that down. Like the play calling was horrendous. The management of players, and look, the injury bug was horrendous. It was. And look, I still think Zion Kearney, Ivan Carrion, I thought they showed a few flashes in the Navy game. Do I think those are guys you need to count on to be superstars? No, I don't. But are they guys that can fill in and do some things? Yeah, I do. I think they are. So I just think it's going to be much, much better
Yeah.
on offense. I do think you're going to see at least an in the 60s offense. At least next year.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean,
And again, with what we're playing that we're losing. Because look, we said, and I was the one, by the way, who said OU would be 7-5 last year. I said that's who they are. I said the highest possible ceiling was 9-3. But I believe that they were a 7-5 football team last year because brand new O-line, brand new quarterback. And we get to play 3 teams with those issues. Those should be 3 wins. You do that in your non-conference, that's 6 wins. You got to find 3 more. And you should
yeah.
be able to. So, that's it. That's my soapbox. That's my Dark Daryl cast upon next year. So, we'll see what happens. So, anywho's. Thunder basketball. How good is this team, dude?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, this is the best. Can I say this is the best Oklahoma City Thunder team that we've ever seen?
Not yet. but yes. How about that?
Okay.
I mean, I think they've got to get past the second round, right? To be in that discussion, right? Like you
Yeah,
you got
probably.
to get to a Western Conference Finals to be in that discussion. Um, but man, 35-7. You have not had Chet for what, since October?
Yeah.
You haven't had iHeart for the start of that when you did have Chet. You haven't had Caruso for 10, 15 games so far this year. I mean,
The craziest part of this to me is that like they haven't played their full roster together
no.
yet, and you're still sitting on a treasure chest of lottery or of draft picks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like it's just insane to me. As much the Thunder have just like Sam Presti and the Thunder organization have just gone gangbusters. Like it's insane. Like it's kind of funny. My boss is a big Philly fan, right? Eagles, Sixers, whatever.
Right.
And he was even telling me he's going to some event because he lives in South Carolina, I think. And he's going to an event in Atlanta and he's going to see the like it's a 76ers like gathering thing and they're going to go watch a game in Atlanta. And he's like, I don't even want to go. We suck. He's like, I hate the process. And I'm like, and it's like, dude, they used to chirp about the process so much, and then now they're all like,
Oh,
the process has failed. And I'm like,
yep.
I was like, Sam Presti is the one that's giving you the process.
Well, you know what's funny though? Here, like this shows just how fans are. The process worked. What failed is when they left the process and they sold everything they had to go get superstars to be around Embiid, going and getting Harden and going and getting PG. Like when they started making those moves, is when the decline started to happen,
you know,
right?
I don't disagree.
And that is why. And Troy has been the one that's pushed this more than you and I have. When you hear all these national, they've got to trade these picks. They got to trade these picks. They got to trade. No, they don't. No, they don't. And because they're not trading those picks, they're getting players like AJ Mitchell, who's a contributor to this team right now. And so if you lose a Wiggins, if you lose a Joe, right? Like somebody like you've got a guy to step into that role right now as a rookie. You're good.
What's funny is like I talking to my boss one day because it's funny we have morning meetings, right,
Right.
and every day, and it's there's like, the whole team. It's funny like everybody else on our team is like we have a bunch of people from Brazil and like India and whatever, and so they're like, what are y'all talking about? Like they're like, you're not talking about soccer, or cricket, so we don't care. Um, but me and him always cut up a little bit about sports, and it was like he was like one day he was like talking about it. And he was like, well, he's like the thing is like people don't want to go play for Oklahoma City. I was like, I understand where you're coming from because it's not like a big market overall. But I
Mm.
was like, Oklahoma City is a big city.
Yeah.
Like it, in itself is a big city. Now it may not have outside of that, it may not be LA or whatever, obviously, right? But I was like, it's still a big city. Like people like don't because they just hear Oklahoma City and they just think, oh, small country town or whatever. And I'm like it's in like the top like I think 18 size cities and like by population and then like by land it's even bigger, like even higher ranked.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was like there's that aspect and I was like the Thunder now have had outside of like that what like 4 or 5 years of being really bad.
Wasn't even that. It's like three.
Yeah, it was like everybody that's coming up now knows like even I was watching an interview, it was like some random college player, and I don't remember who it was, but they were just talking to him about like what his favorite teams were, and he like was talking about the Thunder. He's like when Durant and when Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and Harden were all together, and like people talk about those teams, and I was like, so they have enough history now
Mm-hmm.
that people want to like that they know Oklahoma City. It's like you can't really say that about like even like the Kings, like Sacramento's technically in a big TV market, right? Because in
Yeah.
California, but like nobody knows. Like, when was the last time you talked about what was his name? Cousins? Was that?
Yeah, Cousins was there. Right now, it's Fox
Yeah.
that's
So it's like, but
there.
it's like nobody's like, oh man, the Cousins teams of the Kings. Like nobody's talking about that unless you're from Sacramento,
Right.
right? Like so. Anyway, I just think it's cool that Oklahoma City's been able to put themselves on the map like they have.
Mm-hmm.
This team is so freaking good. I do hate the Dallas Mavericks. I do love that
Oof.
like rivalry is like heated
Yeah.
up so much.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it's like I don't know. It's really hilarious to me, especially now that I live in Florida. I know a lot of people that are like Heat fans, a lot of people that are Magic fans, like obviously some Philly fans, all that stuff. So I'm sure when I move to Pittsburgh, I'll hear more about it. Um, but it's like funny. Everybody on the East Coast and the Eastern Conference are like, we actually cheer for the Oklahoma City Thunder if they're not playing us because it's like the only way we'd meet you is in the finals.
Yeah.
Like, and people like the Thunder. Like people are like, there's not like people don't like Dallas, right? Because Jokic is such a uh
You mean Denver?
no, sorry, not sorry, I said Jokic.
Oh,
Uh
Luca. Luca.
Luca. Yeah, sorry, I don't know why I said Jokic. Luca is such an just jerk, right?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like they have those personalities where people just don't like Dallas.
Yeah.
And it's like there's not that on Oklahoma City. There's nobody on the Thunder team that people are like, I just hate that guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think it's cool. I think this team is insanely good. I think if they can do what they need to do in the playoffs this year,
Mm-hmm.
like if they went, like I'll just say, I'm not gonna try to like jinx us. If they went and won, I'll just say if they won something in the playoff. Put it that way. I want to jinx and put some curse on us. This would be the best Thunder team I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, in the regular season, they've
Top
been
to
great.
bottom. Top to bottom.
I'm really curious to talk with Troy because I know there have been teams in the past that I've been really high on. And this is where Troy's expertise is so helpful because I'd watch him and be like, man, I think such and such is such a good team. And he'll be
Mhm.
like, they're good right now, not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? I'm like, and he's like, nope, it's not going to work in the playoffs. And I'm like, man, I don't know, And so that's like the one thing in the back of my head, like about this team. Because I think we even saw it, and that's what I'm curious. Like last year against Dallas, was that youth, right? Was that youth of just not, that was their first like run in the playoffs? Or were they a team that's not truly
Well,
built for the playoffs like we think they should be or need to be?
yeah, and I don't think it was. I mean, honestly, like, and I don't want to use it as like an scapegoat, but it's like basketball is that sport where like a team gets hot, like it's like the ball just starts going in. There's nothing you can do about it. Like PJ Washington last year in the playoffs, it's like,
This year, his numbers against us this year are
yeah,
insane.
it's yeah, but to the point, it's like watching the games last year. I didn't get to watch the last Dallas game, unfortunately, but like in the playoffs last year, there was so many times that it's like I don't know how you play better defense without fouling him, and he was still drilling threes. It's like that just happens in basketball sometimes. And it's like you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like he was just standing out there on his own.
Uh,
There don't get me wrong, there were times, but there was also times where like literally somebody's right in his face, literally with their palm an inch away from his eyeball, and he's still just drilling threes. Like he just got hot. It is what it is. But regardless of that, I think that they're in a good position. I mean, they they're what 1-for-1 with the Cavaliers.
yep.
Um, they've beaten some really good teams, and I mean, they've even like that's what's crazy about them is like, yeah, they dropped the game to Dallas, but outside of that, it's like, dude, they played some incredible teams
Yeah.
and made them look not that good.
Yeah, the Dallas game is the one, honestly, that bothers me the most this year. Out of all the games they lost, that one bothers me. Now, I understand it was a back-to-back. I get that, and those are tough, right? And I get that Shea didn't play, but Luca didn't play. So, like, literally, it was like, and Daniel Bell, that's a local radio guy here on 107, the franchise, he was saying this, and I agree with him. You take Luca and you take Shea, you throw him to the side, right? Then everybody's like, well, iHeart didn't play. Or, I mean, I think iHeart did play that game. Chet didn't play. So Chet's off the board, but Lively for them didn't play. They're big. So, like, it's a wash, right? So, like, all we've talked about all year is how deep we are. and how many great players we have down the bench. And we do. And we keep talking about how J-Dub's an all-star. And look, J-Dub's second half was pretty all-star. But the
Yep.
first half was gross. And
Yeah.
all those role players looked lost all of a sudden instead of knowing what to do. And Dallas, on the other hand, looked completely composed, like they knew what they were doing. And that's what I mean about built for the playoffs is it's great that our bench is crazy deep, but when they get in these crazy tough situations and Shea has 3 fouls and they can't put him on the floor, are they going to lose their minds? Like when
Yeah.
Shea's not there, can J-Dub carry the squad to hold on until he comes back in or not? And if he can't, then I give the advantage to Dallas. And that's where I'd love to talk with Troy and just see what he thought and saw in that game. I watched the majority of it. But I'll tell you this much. Dallas is not scared of OKC, and PJ Washington showed that in that game with the fouls he was doing, the standing over people, and shaking his shoulders at them, and all the different things. And PJ Washington continues to be on the heater. And look, I'm sorry, I don't think OKC guards him at all. They leave him in the corner, and they keep playing the analytics game of every other team he plays but us. He shoots 28% from the corner for 3. We're going to let him do it, and we don't care. And when he plays us now through an entire playoff series and this entire season, he hits almost everything he shoots. It's time to put the clamps on him and not just leave him open. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm just hopeful post All-Star break. I believe there's 23 games left in the season after All-Star break. We need Chet, Ihart, Caruso healthy, and let's roll. Let's get 20 games to get healthy, get a feel, get a chemistry, and let's go in the playoffs healthy. And if so, man, we'll see. I'll tell you one thing that it has shown too is Chet is an absolute dog. I know we're 35-7 without him, but the nights that we're losing, I mean, every time you're just going, God, where's Chet? I mean, where's Chet? I mean, he's even in that Dallas game. No SGA, fine. If we'd had Chet, we're fine. We're fine in that game. And so it's just an interesting thing. But man, it's crazy fun to watch. Crazy, crazy fun to watch. Fun to be here in the city for. Man, I hope they can hold on and make a run. We'll see. I hope. The parade are you coming for the parade? If they were to win it, is Jared flying in for the parade?
Maybe I'd fly in. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, no, I mean, I look, it's fun. Like it's good. I mean, I'm excited to watch them. I wish I got more of those games out here.
Yeah.
But most of the time when I watch, I'm having to watch the Magic or the Heat or whatever because it's region locked. But yeah,
for sure.
And I'm not paying $300 or whatever it is for NBA Pass. So
do the FanDuel, man. Do the FanDuel.
I don't know. I like it's weird with me with basketball. I love watching basketball, but I can't watch every game. So I just refuse to pay to watch every game of basketball. Like 84 games is so many, or 82 or whatever it is so many.
Yeah. And then the playoffs feel so long.
Yeah. I'll watch the playoffs, but like,
man, it's fun though.
I don't remember what NBA Pass is, but it's like funny every time I put it on, like put on NBA game because I have YouTube TV. It'll be like, do you want to sign up for NBA Pass? It's just like $199. I'm like, absolutely not. I don't. I'm fine watching the Kings play the freaking whoever Portland Trailblazers. I don't care.
Right.
I mean, anyways, no, it's good. So we'll see. Like I think they're gonna. I mean. Maybe we'll have an MVP this year. You think we'll have an MVP this year?
Right now, as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to win it.
Yeah, which is crazy, by the way. I will say one thing. Like, shout out to another player. Jokic is like still insanely good,
dude. Like for his career, like not a season, but for his career, he's like one assist away from averaging a triple double.
Yeah, like
for his career.
I just I can't not like him because he just has such an attitude of like, I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? Like, just his interviews are so good where he's just like, is the most.
It's cool how his switch splits because when he's on the floor, he's intense. Like, he's here to win. But as soon as the game's over, it's like, I want to go home. I don't want to do an interview.
I don't know why, but it always cracks me up. It's the funniest fun is where they were like asking him, like, you're a dad now. Like, does anything about being a dad help you in the game? He's like, no, this doesn't help you. And like they like look for him for like a deeper answer, and it's just like he just left it. And I was like, bro, that's my guy. That's like it's like Greg Popovich as like a NBA player.
Yes, that's so true.
So
Anything else on your docket? I think that's all we've got sports wise tonight.
yeah, just entertainment. I was telling you Nosferatu, which is like a new horror movie, really, really good. I just watched it. Like probably one of the best movies I've seen in a while. It's
Mm.
really weird though. It's like kind of a weird, really dark horror movie, but really good. So and Severance is back, which I'm freaking hyped for. I watched the first episode. They're releasing it weekly.
Right.
It's really weird. This is the one thing that I'll say, and it's really weird that it's done by Ben Stiller. Like Ben Stiller's like the director and producer and all kinds of stuff, I
Huh.
think, on it.
Did
But
not know
like
that.
there's so many things. Like I was even telling somebody, I was like, every episode you have to watch every tiny detail because like even last season, I remember like at the end of the season, people were like, well, if you notice in like episode 3, like the clock was like this and that signified the and like people like connect all these dots, and it's not even like tinfoil hat. Like if you watch the show, it's like it makes sense. It's like every little detail. Like even in this one, like there's already theories about the first episode of this season
Uh-huh.
where like I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it or whatever. But there's like this one thing that this one person does, and people were like, "That was a little strange." And then people started like breaking it down, and we're like, "It could be this," and like
Oh
it's just
gosh.
insane. It's one of those like crazy shows, so I love it. But
That's cool. I didn't know he was part of it. I knew Troy said that he likes that show, and you've said it. I've never seen an episode or anything, so no
yeah, you just have my
idea.
Apple TV login, but it's fine. It's cool. It's whatever.
Dude, it's time, bro. I'm telling you. Like,
Oh, I know.
literally, I finished Rings of Power over Christmas only because I had the flu, and Evan literally put me in quarantine in the bedroom. That's the only reason if I'd have been out and about, I'm doing dinosaurs. I'm like, even tonight, like, like, I kept saying, I hope I can get on at 8:40. We started this pod at 9 o'clock at night, 9:15 at night, because everybody's got to get to bed and get done, and then I'm up by 6 a.m. So I just don't honestly don't get to watch a lot of shows or anything. Like the only show that I religiously watch is my old man, as my daughter likes to call it, my super old man who has nothing else to do, Oak Island show. Like that's about the
Oh my
only
God,
thing
that
that I
is a
watch
boomer. I
week in and
agree with
week
my
out. Oh,
news.
I know. It's so funny. She sent me a reel the other day that was like, "It's been 12 years. Please find the treasure so my dad will stop watching Oak Island."
Yeah. No, yeah, I like you keep trying to get me on that show, and I'm like, yeah, bro, that's all you, dog. Like
Again, I'm not even in it for I just like the history side of it. That's what I like. I mean, that's the fun part is like all the I think if I had not been a pastor, like archaeology would have been a lot of fun for me. Like them just digging through these sites and finding a coin and trying to figure out where it's from and what its age is. Like even like all the Israel trips we've led. My favorite Israel trip that we ever did, we got to go to a dig site and actually help on the dig. And so they would give us our stuff and we would sift through it and we got to separate all the things we thought was stuff and then got to call an expert over and they looked at it and said, "Oh, you have this, you have this, you have this." And it was just so much fun, like unearthing all that stuff and putting all together. Like that's the fun part for me. Like I just wanted to figure out what was going on there. I'm done with the treasure part. It's like what was happening? Why were they here? Why were they doing all this stuff? Let's figure it out. So,
yeah, I did start the only one I started watching. It's not a new show, but I started watching. Well, I did finish Landman. I actually liked it.
no.
Um, um, but I did start watching Goliath, which has Billy Bob Thornton in it also.
Huh.
Um, and it's pretty good so far. It's like it's on Prime. It's like it's already. I think there's like 4 seasons of it or something. But it's like it's one of those shows that like I put on my TV like while I'm working, like if I don't have meetings and stuff, and it's just kind of
Right.
like it's like the white noise where I'm listening to it, but I don't have to like dead focus
Yeah.
on it. So
Yep.
anyway,
That's
I've liked
awesome.
it. So, but yeah. Anyway, that's that's my entertainment news.
Cool. Well, again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys that do listen. Again, Nemo, Swayze. I know my friend Andy listens still some too, my friend Dustin, but we got some of y'all out there. We're grateful. For those of you
I
that have
used to
stuck around. What?
shout out. Maybe he listens. I know every once in a while he'll text me Brady, an OSU fan. Sometimes will listen, and he'll be like, "Y'all are such idiots for the." Like he'll like text me some random stuff. So anyway,
That's
shout out to
awesome.
Brady.
Heck yeah, Brady. So again, keep joining us. We appreciate it. Follow, like, do all the things. We appreciate you guys coming along with ride. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. We will talk to you guys later.
Bye, Baker.
Cha-ching, a Thunder Moneyball. you can unhitch the wagon, put the ponies in the ball,